Hello everyone, my name is Miracle Godwin Obo, and this is task 3 of my CodeAlpha Cybersecurity Internship. For this project, I performed a secure code review on an open source Python Flask Login System. Instead of running or attacking the application, I, I just carry out a manual static application security testing assessment. That is, I carefully reviewed the source code to identify security vulnerabilities and also to recognize good security practice and implement good security practice that the developer did, and also I recommend an improvement based on the OWASP Top 10 2021 version. In this repository, you will find my assessment report, the project readme, and a reference to the original application that I reviewed. This is the application that I reviewed. This is the link to it. So now I will open it so we can continue. This is the application that I reviewed, and before I continue, before I review the code, I'll first look at the project structure or the structure to understand how all this application is organized. Starting from main.py. This is the main backend file. The developer placed the application called login here, including authentication, database connection, routes, and also session management. All of them are inside this the main.py. This is the file location I mostly focus on doing this assessment. Now to the templates. This folder contains the HTML pages that user can interact with, such as login, registration, profile, and home page. All of those HTML are inside this template. And we should move to static. This static, the developer use this folder to store like CSS, JavaScript, image, logo that improve the appearance and the function of the website. All of them is stored here. This file, this file list, all of them is stored here. Now we move to requirement.txt. This file lists all the Python packages required for the application to run correctly before you install. It have all the tools that you need to install the application. Now .env environment. I noticed the developer use this .env file to store sensitive information, like if you open it, you see like secret code. He use it to store sensitive information instead of adding them to the main.py. Instead of adding them to the main code, you keep it here. Just these are the sensitive information. You can see the secret key, the Flask debug, the MySQL, all of them, they are inside there. And this is good security practice because sensitive data should not be coded into the application. It's very good. And we have a readme.md. We have readme.md. This explains how the application works overall and how to install and run the application. We have also handle database SQL. This contains the SQL command used to create the application, application's database. For my assessment, I focus mainly on main.py. I focus mainly on main.py because that's where the authentication session database operation are handled. Now I will open the main.py so we can review the code now. Because of my time, I will not be reviewing them line by line, but I'll be doing them section by section. So the first section here imports all the libraries the application needs to work. So like this Flask provides the web framework. Flask dash MySQL DB connects the application to MySQL, and also .env load environment. Also this one load environment variable. OS, this import OS, he import it because OS read those environment variable, and RE perform input validation using a regular expression. This is a good practice because one thing I notice here is the use of this .env. Instead of writing a sensitive credential directly into the code, the developer store them inside the .env file, which is more secure approach because it's not good to all of them to show in the main code. Now we'll move to the next section. This load-dash.env And yes, this section here, this section, the application load the environment variable, you configure the Flask and set the secret code, and also connect them to the database. This is a very good this is a very good security practice, because the secret key is stored inside the .env file instead of being encoded, like I said earlier. Now we move to login function. This function receive the username and password from the login form. When the user enter the login and the username and password, this function will check the database. It will create a session after successfully authentication, and then redirect the user to the home page. If you see this cursor.execute select from account where username is equal to an password, this line of code is a good security practice. The developer use this %s to allow the database to safely handle the user input. This will help this help protect the application against the SQL injection attack, and is very good. And also I also noticed that I noticed that the application display a generic error message, because if you check here, if you check this flash, the input here, you see this is a good security practice, because it doesn't tell the attacker whether the username or the password was incorrect when the user tried to log in and the login was not successful. So instead of displaying incorrect username or incorrect password, e display both of them together as that incorrect username slash password. So attacker will not know if the password was the problem or the username was the problem. This is a good security findings here. The security weakness that I found in this function is password. If you notice, this password is equal to request dot form inside. You put password inside. Select from account where username is equal to one major issue I discover is that the password are compared directly into with the value store in the database. The username and the password stored directly to the database, and which is which is very bad, because if the database is compromised, attacker can immediately see all the user's password, and the user and it's very bad. And user who reuse those password on other websites may also have the same account compromise, may also have those account compromised. So what I recommend is that the password should be hash using algorithm. What I recommend is to encrypt those password or hash them here. So now we will move to registration form. Registration function. This function creates a new user account. If you see this three dots, yes, this if conditional statement here, if you see this read dot match, all this the developer validate the email and username before creating an account. This help reject invalid or unexpected user input. The weakness that I find in this place is that during the registration, passwords are inside directly into the database without hashing, like I said earlier, which is very high risk issue. And another weakness is that he check the validation of email, he check the validation of username, but he not check the security strength, the password strength, the security strength of the password. So this is which is very bad. He only check whether the password exists. It doesn't enforce password strength, and it's very bad. This will allow user to create any type of password, and it will be very weak. It's not good. What I would recommend here is that you should enforce a strong password before allowing registration, like maybe like minimum length, uppercase letter, lowercase letter, number, and special character. You should enforce them. Let's check session management. After successfully logging, the application will create a user session. I noticed that the developer check whether the session exists before allowing the access to protected page. And the good practice here is that if you see this, if login in session, this is called session based authentication, and it helps to prevent unauthorized access from accessing protected resources. And the weakness that I found in this code is that on this last page, this app.run, debug is equal to true. I noticed that the application run with debug is equal to true. Debug mode is useful during the development, but it should never be enabled when in production, because it can expose sensitive application information. So I recommend to disable debug mode. So before deploying the application, they can change it to debug is equal to false. Now let's open our GitHub, my repository, so we can explain the security findings summary. We can explain everything. After completing the secure code review, I identified three security findings. I also map each finding to OWASP of 10 2021 version to show the type of security risk it represents. The first one is Plaintext password storage. The severity is very high. This finding fall under OWASP 2021 OWASP A02 2021 cryptographic failure because user password are stored in plain text instead of being securely hashed. I rated it high because if the database is compromised, attacker can immediately read every user password. Another security weakness that we find is also missing password strength. Like I said earlier, the severity is medium. This finding map it to identification and authentication failure AO7 of OWASP top 10 because the application allow user to create weak password without enforcing the minimum length or complexity. So it is very bad. So that's why another finding that we find is flask debug mode that I explained earlier. This finding fall under OWASP A05 2021 security misconfiguration because the application is configured to run in debug mode. I rated it medium because debug mode will expose sensitive system information that could help an attacker doing exploitation. Not every finding was actually negative. I identified several good security practices already implemented by the developer, starting from parameterized SQL injection. This help prevent SQL injection by separating user input from SQL command. The and also the second one here is session-based authentication. User must also be authenticated before accessing the pages. We have a generic login error messages. The application does not review whether the username or password is incorrect, and it reduce the risk of attacker to quickly guess and know the main problem of the inputs. This is also good. It reduce the risk, and we have a basic input validation. The application validates email addresses and username before creating user accounts. This is very good. In conclusion, this project strengthened my understanding of secure code review and static application security testing. It's also taught me that reviewing code is not only about finding vulnerabilities, it's also to recognize good security practice and recommended practice improvement that make the application more secure. Thank you, CodeAlpha, for this opportunity. I really appreciate, and thank you everyone for watching.